Hi, Divinely Guided. I am going to first say thank you for your patience, and I give gratitude for everyone who's been tuning in to my story. We are about to jump into part 6. I know it's been a couple days since I've posted. However, I am very new to this journey, so I appreciate your continued patience as I walk through this, learning how to get familiar with content creation and crafting the illustrations and doing the voiceover. This is all really new to me, so I appreciate you listening in. So without further ado, let's jump into part 6 of my story. And as always, if any parts of my story resonate with you, check out the meditation that will be posted in the comments. Let's get into it. This chapter of my life carries sensitive themes, moments of verbal abuse, and early sexual experiences. Please take care of your heart while listening. My intention in sharing is not to harm, but to heal. What stands out the most from this season of my life is a whirlwind of change. I had changed my school, I had changed my living situation, and my family and relationship dynamics were all changing. My mom had just gotten divorced. We had moved in with my aunt Shara, and there was just a lot of transition going on during this time. I had been in the Rittner School District my whole life, starting with Iveland Elementary, then I went to Hake, then Rittner. So that community was my history. I thought I'd graduate with some of the kids I started school with, some of them who I knew since I was in kindergarten. So that was my sense of familiarity. That was my sense of safety and belonging. So I enjoyed the time that I spent there because I had built lasting friendships I was in the same district from kindergarten to 10th grade. So it's just, those bonds were pretty strong, and I fully expected to graduate with those kids. So when we moved, it was somewhat devastating. I went from being in the Rittner School District, which was very diverse. It was a melting pot of students of all cultures. We had majority white teachers, but we did have minority teachers in that district. So when I moved to Eureka High, which is in the Rockwood School District, it felt like I was in another world because all the teachers were white and most of the students were white. So it was a very different experience during that time. Compared to being at Rittner, it felt like it was just a handful of black kids scattered across the halls in different groups. So it's like I went from being seen while blending to feeling invisible and standing out, if that makes sense. It was the first time I truly felt black. Not because I hadn't always been black or identified as a black person, of course I do, but because it suddenly mattered in a way that it never had mattered before. It was the way that the students' eyes lingered and the teachers' instructions cut a little different, with the black students. The silence filled spaces around me. It was never comfortable. It was always thick with tension in that space of me knowing that I was sticking out like a sore thumb, because 9 times out of 10 I would be the only black girl in my classes, or the only black person in my classes. So this is when I began to understand what it meant to stand out just by existing, just by living. I remember my first day at Eureka though. It was early in the morning in the cafeteria, and I was already nervous. I didn't know anyone, and I was kind of making my way around the school, and a huge fight broke out in the cafeteria. I mean, a large crowd had formed, and it was a bunch of people fighting in the middle of the crowd. It was like on the outside, it was like the kids looking in to see what's going on, like who's fighting. And on the inside, it was another group of kids, and like they were all fighting, beating up on one kid. So when I was being nosy too, I went over to see who was fighting, and when I looked in there, I noticed that it was my brother's wife, nephew, in the middle of the fight. Now, me and him didn't have a close relationship, but I knew of him though. So as soon as I seen who it was, I like climbed in and jumped in the fight. And I was fighting with him, I didn't like the optics of him being in the middle of a group of people beating him up. So we both got sent to the office, and I'm sitting in the office waiting to see how my mom's gonna react. I'm like sweating bullets. I never had gotten in trouble at school before. I had never been, in any serious trouble at school. So I just knew my mama was finna tag that ass, okay? But anyway, I thought I was in deep trouble, but when I got home, my mom was so proud of me. She was proud that I defended him, that I jumped in, stood up for something that I thought was right. And for once, I was seen in a way that I was like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stood on business. It felt good to have that acknowledgement. Even though it wasn't for my grades or my behavior, it was for my courage. And I liked that. I liked being seen in that way. I liked that feeling. I had become so used to being in trouble or feeling like I had to kind of stay in the shadows, and walk on eggshells to not aggravate, my mom or get in trouble or stay just out the way, that when she acknowledged me and hyped me up for that fight, I was like, okay, cool. I know how to make mama proud. You know what I'm saying? So that was just the validation that I needed at that time. However, at the same time, it showed me that I got more attention for being involved in something chaotic and messy than I got for being a bookworm or a imaginative person, or being creatively free. That's not the stuff that got the praise. What got the praise was me jumping in the fight, and that was a big deal. And I ate it up. So moving on, for a while we was still staying with Auntie Shara until my mom reconnected with my sister's dad. I'll never forget it. It was the summer of, I want to say 2004, and we were all over my granny house. I don't know why we were over there. We were just up over grandma's house kicking it for whatever reason. The aunties and everybody was over there. And we were sitting outside. The aunties was on the porch. I was outside running up and down the neighborhood. And this shiny platinum Cadillac pulled up, ragtop roof, spotless, like it just rolled off the lot. Out of the car steps this tall, handsome dude draped in jewelry. He's an older guy. He pulled up right in front of my granny house, and I'm talking about rings on every finger, gold necklace, designer shades. Of course, the aunties was on the porch looking, trying to figure out who was pulling up. And I'm like, who is this man? Because I ain't never seen this car around here before. I'm thinking he pulling up to the wrong house. But granny house was like the central spot for everybody. So I'm like, maybe it's a relative, I don't know, pulling up to visit or whatever. Because that would have happened. We have a lot of family from out of town who would just come, and everybody know that granny house is the central spot. So I'm sitting out trying to figure out who pulling up, So that's when I heard the aunties on the porch whispering to each other, and I'm tuned in, and I hear one of them say, "Go get my mom," and the other one said, "That's Lila's daddy." So my mouth dropped. I'm like, that's my sister daddy? Like, this him pulling up flashy, looking healthy and well, dress head to toe, so clearly he ain't going without. And I automatically start thinking about like all the years that I watched my sister yearn for her dad. My dad was present for her, but it wasn't her dad, so she always wanted their relationship. And I won't go too deep because that's her story to tell, but I know that I watched my sister hurt and want for that man, so I never expected to meet him, first of all. And second of all, when he popped back in, I surely didn't expect him to look like he had everything together the whole time. So I was just in shock. I was mouth dropped wide open, like I couldn't believe it. Eventually, my mom came outside. Him and her started chatting it up. Clearly, whatever him and her had to talk about that day opened up the door for him to come around more. After a little while, he ended up buying a little house on Arlington and Ashland. He rehabbed it for us, and all of us moved in together. At first, I was happy because Granny House was like literally walking distance. I could walk right down the street around the corner, and I was at Granny House. But deep on the inside, we had, all in that same year, we had literally moved out of my mom's home with her ex-husband and moved into my auntie Shara's house, which is already uncomfortable because her son had been, if you listen to previous chapters, her son had been touching me inappropriately in earlier years. So we went from moving from my mom's ex-husband's house, who was drunk and verbally abusive and sometimes physically abusive to us, the kids, not my mom, not that I know of, to moving in Auntie Shara's place, who had its own different set of issues because I was trying to make sure that I wasn't getting felt up by her son during that time or whatever, but that had slowed down significantly. I don't know if it's because I was older and he knew the likelihood of me saying something was, a higher chance or what, but to move from one environment to another environment that was uncomfortable, and now we're jumping into a home with a man I don't know, and like, frankly. So I just wanted it to be me, my mom, and my sister who moved into that house. But sometimes we don't have control over what's happening to us, but we have control over how we react to it. That's what I know now. By this time, my older brother was living his own life. He showed up at like family events, but he never really connected with me on that level anyway. So his absence always left like a quiet little hole for doubt to creep in, and for me to wonder like why he don't like me or want to be around me. It seemed like he wanted to connect with everybody else, sister and brother, everybody else who wasn't in our family he was clinging to, and me and him just never had that bond, and I just feel like he never put forth the effort. So it was like I got more used to him not being around. And for years I was mad and hurt about that, wondering why he didn't want to deal with me, but had time and space to engage with everybody else. But when I became an adult, I had to let that relationship go in peace for my own peace of mind. But I'll dig deeper into that in a later chapter. So anyway, moving on. In high school, I had two best friends. And they didn't hang out with each other, but I hung out with both of them separately. And I want to say their names, but I'm not going to say their names because I don't know where they're at in life now, and I don't want to, pull anyone else into my story. Anywho, I'll just tell you how I engage with these girls. So one of my friends, she was my safe space. I'm going to call her Jaleesa. Let's say Jaleesa was my safe friend. She did my hair. My mama allowed her to stay over and spend the night. We kikied all the time, laughing, talking about boys, went shopping together, all the things. That was my girl. Now, my other friend, I'm going to call her, let's see, what we going to call my other friend? Let's call her Jasmine. Things were a little more reckless with Jasmine. So one day we ended up skipping school to hang out with some guys. The one that I was dealing with had picked me up at my bus stop. And we had met up a few times before. I'll go into more detail. I do go into more detail in my book. But I'm going to be careful on this app because I don't know how far I can go. But we had met up a few times in some risky situations. And we never really went all the way, but we always just fooled around just enough, you know. I was scary, but still doing the most. So we would fool around and I would go back to school, or he would drop me off because he had a car. He'll pick me up at my bus stop. We'll go do our thing and then he'll drop me off at school. So one day, me and Jasmine linked up with him, and he had another friend who Jasmine was messing around with. And we was just kicking it. We had went to a park and we was playing in the park that day or whatever. And then we had went back to what I thought was his parents' place, because in my mind, this guy was about 17 years old. That's the conversation we had. So I'm already nervous because ain't no grown people at the house. It's just me and Jasmine, her guy and my guy. Jasmine and her guy then went their way at whatever part of the house they was in. Me and him was sitting on the bed in the bedroom. And I'm like nervous as hell because, full disclosure, at this time I'm still a virgin and I'm playing big girl. So I am doing just enough to keep him interested, but not going all the way. So I'm letting him touch me and stuff like that. I go deeper in my book or whatever. Anywho, this particular day, I was sitting on the edge of his bed trying to figure out how I am going to convince him not to go all the way with me again, because he was starting to get frustrated. He got tired of me putting him off or whatever. You know, I guess he got tired of just touching me, you know. Anyway, for some reason, he had to go outside the room to get something. So I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, nervous. And when he stepped out the room, I noticed the ID on the dresser. And when I looked at the ID on the dresser, I seen that it was his picture on there and he was in his late 20s. My stomach dropped in my drawers. Like, I'm laughing, but like real, like I was so scared. So scared. I just didn't know what to do. In my mind, I was like, I'm doing too much. Like, I was already doing too much by even being here with this dude anyway, against what I know I was supposed to be doing. But on top of that, this a grown man now. So the dynamic changed instantly. I immediately felt like I was in danger. But I didn't want to tip him off and escalate it. As I'm trying to sit down and figure out how I'm going to talk my way out of this, my girl Jasmine comes out the room. I swole. I just big and swollen. Like, I can't even make this up. Like, she had some type of allergic reaction, we found out later. But her eye had swelled up so big that it would literally look like it could have came out of her head. And it was watering. And, me and her had to hurry up and go because we didn't know what was going on with that. And the guys that we were with wanted us to go. Now, knowing what I know now, she clearly needed some type of medical attention. So them being grown men, they weren't going to take her nowhere and get caught up that way. So they was like, yeah, y'all go ahead. Go ahead. So me and her found our way to the nearest bus stop or whatever and went on our merry little way. But even, like, I'm just so grateful because I don't know how I was going to get out that situation if she didn't have that allergic reaction. And when I look back at it now, I know that was my escape route. That was divine intervention. That was a warning, and it was a rescue that God sent to me before I can even pray for what I needed. And I'm so grateful for that, even into this day. About a week later, his girlfriend ended up calling. And back then, we had house phones. So his girlfriend ended up calling. She found my number, I guess. And she called my mama's house phone. Luckily, I picked up the phone. And she was like telling me to leave her man alone and that they had kids together. And she had no clue what my age was. And I didn't tell on him. And I just knew that sealed the deal. I told her okay. I didn't argue with her. And I just hung up the phone and left that situation alone forever. As I got older, I started to date, and I ran into my first real boyfriend. His name was Keith. I met him through an old friend at Rittner. Her name was Makia. He was tall, he was dark, he was very charming, and he worked at a rally. He was always smiling and cracking jokes, and he was super silly. Anyway, his mom didn't set any boundaries, so she pretty much let us do whatever we wanted in their room behind closed doors. And she knew what was going on behind that door. I ended up losing my virginity under her roof, with her at home, not caring. And I just know my mom would have never, ever let nothing like that go down in her house, especially while she was at home. And me and him took full advantage of her not caring. So back at home with my mom, life with Rico was getting worse. They started to argue, and it was getting bad and loud. I particularly remember one evening where they were arguing, and when Rico would argue with my mom, it was like nothing I ever heard. Like with her ex-husband, he was drunk and they were arguing. He would be loud, but he would never curse her out or anything or call her outside of her name. If he did, he didn't let us hear it. Rico was a whole different monster, because I've listened to this man call my mama all kind of bitches and everything else in front of my face. So I remember one day he had cursed out my mama, and he was calling her all kind of names and tearing her down basically in front of me. I remember coming down the steps because the argument had got so loud, and I asked him, like, hey, can you not curse my mama out, And I could have well been out of line, and I would have did the same thing if I had to go back in the past. It would have ended up the same way, because what you're not going to do is call my mama all kind of bitches and hoes in front of me. So that's what happened. So I asked him to not do that, and he pretty much ignored me and went back to cursing her out in front of me. Then he raised his hand up. He didn't hit her, but he raised his hand up like he was getting ready to mush her face. And something in me snapped, and I climbed all over him. I was like all over him, climbing him like a tree, trying to swing on him with everything I had. And then my mama pulled me off of him, and she told me to stop. And I immediately felt like she betrayed me in that moment. I felt hurt. And that night I left. It was dark, and I was in St. Louis City, walking through the streets. I didn't go for my granny house, because even though that was the closest place, I knew that she would know I was there. So I just kind of walked around until I found a way to Keith's house. So when I got to Keith's house, I ended up telling him everything that went on. His brother and his teenage girlfriend was already living there or whatever. And Keith took that as an opportunity to ask me to move in, and his mama didn't have a problem with it. So that night I decided to move in with my boyfriend's mom under their roof instead of being at home. Living there felt like freedom at first because I could come and go as I pleased. But it did come with conditions, and one of those conditions was I had to go to church every Sunday. And that was different for me because even though I grew up in church, it was never forced on me. So their church was called New Life. Two of his aunties was preachers, and I literally sat and watched them gossip all week, speak nasty to each other and about other people all week, and be selfish with each other all week. But on Sunday during church, they were like the most righteous and judgmental people you would come across. And his mom was the same way. She would manipulate people all week, talk about people who wouldn't do things for her that she wanted them to do. And then she would force church on everybody come Sunday. By Sunday evening, it was like church never even happened, and I just never could get on board with it. I never felt comfortable faking my worship, and that's what it felt like when I went to church with them. I would go, and I would sit peacefully and quiet, and they didn't like that. They would call me out for it. Like the literal pastor, who was a female at the time, it was two of them, would be in the pulpit and telling everybody to, shout and dance and say all these things. Oh, dance on the devil's head and all of this stuff that just didn't feel comfortable to me. It felt very performative. I grew up in my granny church, an old Baptist church, Southern Baptist church, and you don't play with God. That's what I grew up learning. So even though I just didn't want to perform in that way. So they would call me out and be like, oh, you don't want to receive a blessing and all that stuff to try to make me feel uncomfortable. But it never did move me because I'm not going to play with God, So I couldn't connect to that. And I sat in my own peace, just listening to the music, showing up because that was the requirement to live in the house, but refusing to perform for the people who forgot their holiness as soon as church service ended. Then one Sunday changed because I remember a visiting pastor coming named Bishop Wyatt. He had came to preach at the church. And from the moment he walked in, you can feel the presence of something real. The atmosphere shifted when he walked in. I felt his anointing in the room. I remember him being in the pulpit and he started singing. He was singing. He was like, I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. And as he was singing that, it's just like holiness fell off his lips. And Keith was on the keyboard playing behind him. And I just sat there and I listened. At the end of the service, the bishop had said God has a message for someone in here. And he asked us all to come to the front of the church and join hands in a circle. And I participated. When we got in the circle, he walked around praying for different people one by one who had raised their hands and volunteered themselves for prayer. I hadn't raised my hand. But when he stopped in front of me, he looked straight into my face and into my soul and said, you and that baby ain't got nothing to worry about. You and that baby gonna be blessed. The father won't be in the picture, but God will make sure that you and that child will never want for anything. I was in shock because no one knew I was pregnant except for me, Keith, and his mom. And my heart just dropped. And I remember whispering to the pastor as I was crying, I was like, but I love him. And he said it again with so much conviction. As it was like God needed me to understand, like hold my face. And he didn't hold my face, but that's just the energy it was given. Like if you was to, put both your palms on somebody's face and just like make them look in your eyes. He said it again, and I understood what I had to do. Keith had stopped playing the keyboard at this time, and he ended up walking out the church. And it was confirmed for me. My soul knew that it was time for me to leave about that situation. So as graduation approached, so did my due date. Each day I grew heavier and fuller, and I started to realize that I wasn't only carrying my daughter, but the weight of my new life was beginning to unfold. I started applying for jobs with health insurance and looking for apartments, setting small anchors of independence for myself. Like, I wasn't taught to do none of this, but the instinct just kicked in. It's like I was being led to do what I had to do to make sure me and my daughter had a stable foundation. Because one thing I knew for sure is that Keith would not be coming with me. I ended up calling my mom and asking her if I could stay with her until after I had the baby, and she said yes. And just like that, my plan was set. I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was going. So as time was coming in, prom was right around the corner, and I ended up going to prom 7 months pregnant. I ended up wearing a red gown that I wore to my brother's wedding. We had it altered to make space for my belly, and I even had it shortened so it can give a different look. Because, I still was a teenager, still wanted to feel pretty, Keith ended up wearing a white tuxedo, and he drove us to prom in my cousin's brand new Intrepid. She had a white Intrepid. And about a month later, I walked across the stage carrying way more than my diploma. I was carrying my legacy. I was welcoming another generation. And if that pregnancy didn't do anything else, it woke me up. It was the first time I knew that life was bigger than the world that I had currently known. Thank you guys so much for listening to my story with me today. I know this one was a little longer, but this part of my life was a little more complex. As always, I'll leave you with some affirmations. I honor the girl who became before she was ready. I forgive the woman I was for surviving in silence. I trust divine timing even when it hurts. I am safe, chosen, and protected. I am the one my ancestors prayed for. And I am still becoming. This season of my life taught me that every ending births a new beginning. I wasn't just carrying a child, I was carrying purpose, transformation, and legacy. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt like you've had to become before you were ready, I invite you to pause with me in stillness. Take a moment to breathe and step into the becoming meditation for sacred transitions. It's a space to release the weight of who you were and welcome the woman you're becoming. The link is in the comments in my bio. You don't have to rush your healing. You just have to arrive. Thank you.